Hey guys, welcome back for another product review. Today I've got yet another LED bulb. We're going to be testing it out against the stock bulbs here in the FJR. Now this company saw my previous reviews, they know I don't pull punches, and they felt like rolling the dice. So they sent me a couple of these. Now I'm going to be honest up front, I'm still a little skeptical. I have yet to see an LED bulb replacement that simply works as well in all regards as stock bulbs. Sometimes they do one or two things better, but not others, and that's the best case scenario I've seen. Now these are a little different, I will admit. In the box, there is simply the bulb assembly, and these are different than 99% of them out there. There's no instructions or anything, and it's really a simple product. You have a one-piece bulb. It is the identical size, the identical shape and mounting to an OEM, to a standard halogen bulb. That's one thing that makes these very unique. Back in the day when these type of replacements started coming out, it was kind of in its infancy. The LEDs themselves had to be really big. They drew a lot of power. Even though they were brighter, they still drew a lot of power, and that means they put out a lot of heat. Most of them had a big external heat sink behind the housing where the cables would be plugged in. Some of them had even a remote mounting bracket that you had to put in just to be able to fit cables on it. Some even have active cooling fans, like little miniature hairdryer fans, and you hear that when your bike is on. None of that ever appealed to me. Oh, and by the way, you also have to permanently damage parts of your bike. You have to cut the rubber boot to fit most of those in the housing because they're huge. Not true about any of that with these. These are latest generation. There are actually 9 LEDs in the space of a normal halogen filament. So they're in the right position. That's definitely key. It's just a solid aluminum heatsink. It's all internally heat sinked, just like a halogen bulb. Only draws 15 watts. So a fraction of a halogen bulb. Should stay nice and cool. A solid mount plate here. There's no need for any of the adapters or any of that kind of stuff of previous designs. And you just plug your cables right in. It's the same shape and size as a halogen bulb. So it's a really easy install. Now, there are some things obviously different, or maybe not obviously if you haven't inspected a halogen bulb. Number one, with a halogen bulb, in a reflector housing, which they're all using, you have a filament for the low beam and a filament for the high beam. The low beam filament is completely open all the way around the bulb, so the light is shining in a ring all the way around the bulb in all directions. The reflector housing is made to be used with light coming from all directions. The position, the size and the shape of every little facet in your reflector housing itself, the actual headlight assembly, is what gives you your cutoff pattern, where the light is hitting, how much is hitting where. It's the characteristics of the headlight assembly. When you mess with that, if you were to shift that around, well, all of a sudden your light's going up into the treetops, you don't have a sharp cutoff line, and it's just kind of scattering. You're blinding drivers, you don't have as much light right in front of your bike. Bad things happen. Well, the exact same thing happens when you mess with the light source. When these light bulbs, these diodes, these sources of the light move around in the housing, forward, back, up, down, wherever, rotate, you're messing with how it's hitting in that reflector housing. And that's been the Achilles heel of every single design I have yet seen when I actually test it. So at best, I've seen them as bright, using a lot less power, so those are two good things, but a terrible pattern, and you have less light in front of you, you're blinding drivers, and your lights, lighting up signs like you had your high beams on, but you don't. So the high beam filament in a standard bulb is a second filament just in front of the low beam filament, but it's covered on the bottom. So when you turn on your highs, you're actually adding light only to the top of the reflector housing. And all those facets are designed to then pick that up and put it where it should be for your high beams. That's how the bulbs work. This only has light facing in one direction. So for its low beam, it is not going to be interacting. It's not possible for it to interact like a standard bulb. It will definitely affect the throw and the pattern. Whether or not it's just super bright and makes up for it, we'll see. But where exactly that light will now be missing, we'll have to test. And testing, I'm not going to go through all the detailed install. You can watch my other videos. I have one dedicated for the FJR if you want to know how to change the light bulbs. But testing is very important. 9 times out of 10, when I see a guy throw in his LED bulbs of choice, he throws a picture up in the group or the forum and everyone's like, oh, that looks great, that's awesome. And the test is absolutely meaningless because all he does is usually just the after, but sometimes the before and after, and he goes and takes a picture with his phone. That is 100% meaningless. Doesn't do a damn thing because the phone is auto-exposing. Most phones, most modern phones, have the ability to lock exposure, and if you don't do that, the test results are meaningless. Taking a auto-exposed shot of your LED headlights is meaningless because you can't see, number one, what the difference is between stock and LED, and number two, the phone's gonna make everything look great. You could have a freaking old D-cell flashlight pointing down the road. Take a picture with your phone, it's gonna make it look like it's a freaking spotlight. Phone is gonna lie. You have to use the lockdown exposure. On most phones, you can tap to focus and you'll get that little square. If you hold down and focus and hold down for a few more seconds, it'll blink and then you'll usually see a little sun symbol and a lock. Then you're locked in. You don't change that. You take a picture of before and you take a picture of after, and you can compare those two directly. But it's really obvious when it happens because these guys will be taking pictures, usually in front of their garage door, which is again, completely meaningless. You have to go out on a dark street and see where the light is going and how far it's going and the quality of the light, 5, 10 houses down. Look at how it's hitting at the edges. That's what matters. In a headlight, you park your bike 2 feet in front of a garage door and go, oh, look at that, it looks great. It doesn't tell anybody anything and you're just fooling yourself. Sorry to be mean, but that's the way it is. And I'll tell you, these guys don't like hearing that either. And of course, when you tell them how to do it correctly, they always have an excuse of why they never do. Some of them probably do and then go, that looks like crap. Your brain will fool yourself, all right? You could put in a dimmer bulb and think it looks great just because the color is different. And that's the main reason people are doing this, is because it's a cooler white. And I get it, especially in these bikes where for a few years here, we have the LED strips underneath that are running lights, but incandescent or halogen normal lights. So they are yellow in comparison to the white LEDs. And most guys just want to match the color. Well, that's no reason to shoot yourself in the foot and diminish your headlights, in my opinion. So we're going to test it the right way. I'm going to pop this in the left-hand side and wait until it's dark out. We're going to go test it, and I'm going to give you not only before and afters, I'm going to give you simultaneous. I'll be able to cover one and cover the other, and you'll see with exposure locked down exactly what the difference is between this new LED and the stock bulbs. So with just the left one now replaced, we can see that yes, the color does look a lot better. It matches the LED running lights. Always a plus, no debate there. And one really good thing is, unlike some of them, and this is dependent on the position of the LED diodes themselves, the overall position of the light is the same. You can see that right there in the middle of my utility sink is where the overlap is. And there's still one continuous cutoff line. I do not see a lot of overextended light, but now let's go ahead and cover up the LED side. So now that's just incandescent. And again, this is not the test, this is just a cursory opinion. I'm gonna go ahead and lock down exposure here. Alright, so I'm locked in exposure. Now when I uncover the LED and cover the halogen, we'll see the total difference. So overall, I don't see any real noticeable brightness improvement. If anything, it looks a little dimmer. I'm just looking at my shop vac and my stands here and my tripod. It could just be the color temperature, that the yellow shows up easier to your eyes. Okay, now a big thing I'm seeing is exactly what I was afraid of. Watch the lower half of my shop vac. It's fairly well lit right here. This is the halogen. Watch the light on that lower half just disappear because there is no light coming down on the LED. See, the top's lit, but not the bottom. And now both are. So I am missing a lot of light right down where you need it on the road. Look at the wall underneath the sink, how it's not lit here. The top is, and now both are. So I'll still do the test tonight, but these are obviously not as good for actual use on the road because they do not match the specification of halogen filament bulbs, period. Okay, we're in a completely dark, completely unlit new construction section of the neighborhood. Just got some lightning going on, so there's no other light. It's just dim cloud and city light in the distance. So let's fire up the bike. So there's both headlights on. On the left is the LED, on the right is the halogen. We got a street sign up here that's about 6 or 7 car lengths in front of the bike, and there's a tree line about 200 feet in front of me, and then the road starts to curve gently off in that direction. So these are the low beams. What I'm going to do is, I've got a towel here, and just like in the garage, I'm going to cover one and then cover the other, and I'll do the lows and the highs. And I'm going to lock in exposure on the halogen so we can see if the LEDs are dimmer or brighter. Obviously, we know there's some light missing, and you can even see it. You know, the halogen's lighting all this up all the way to in front of the bike, and you can see that the LED's got this real sharp cutoff because there's no light shining to the lower part of the reflector housing. So all of this is unlit by the LEDs. That's a big gaping hole. But let's take a look at the comparison here. So I first cover the LED, and then I'm going to lock in exposure. Okay, so now everything I show you is 100% equal to each other. So this is just the right side halogen. There is the LED on the left, and there isn't a great difference between how they throw left and right as far as what you're seeing in frame here. The edges are different, but not the cutoff line and not what's straight in front of the bike. Back to the halogen. LED. So I'm seeing that it's got a nice pool of light for the LED right in the center there, but that's about it. It's dimmer everywhere else, and of course less light everywhere else. All right, let's throw on the high beams, see how those compare. I'm curious about this. I couldn't tell without getting out here what it's exactly going to do. Now remember, the halogen has a completely separate filament just pointing up for the high beams, so it's more light and in a different position. This one, I believe, just turns on 3 extra diodes right next to the original, so I'm not sure how the throw is going to change, but we'll see as soon as I find the switch. Okay, so there's both of them on. Here's just the halogen. Just the halogen brights and just the LED. So I think what it even did is shut off the mains and just turned on the extra 3, because that totally moved the light up. But you'll notice, see that street sign? And I can kind of see the tree line with my bare eyes of the LED. Nope, not so much. It's barely illuminating that sign. It's not hitting the trees at all. So highs are definitely a fail, and lows, I'm impressed with the cutoff. I'm impressed with the quality of light, but not the position. Halogen, LED. I love the light right in front of the bike. It really makes a huge difference to me riding at night. All right, back home. So, final thoughts. Who are these for? And bottom line, should you buy them? You might think I'm just going to flat out tell you, nope, they're junk, don't buy them. It's actually not the case. I think these are going to be great for some people. Let me explain. First of all, me, I'm going to pass. I'm going to put the stock back in there. For me, it's by far the better performer. But that's because I ride at night. I ride at night a lot. I do most of my riding in the cooler months when the days are a lot shorter. I go on trips. I go around here in the dark. It's just my normal thing. I need great light. That's not the majority of riders. It might surprise you to know that most riders don't ride at night for various reasons. Sometimes it's a vision issue. Most of the time it's just they don't have the occasion to. If they're going on a ride for pleasure, it's during the day. It's when stuff's open. Most riders don't go on trips. Now, FJR riders certainly do, but this is an H4 bulb. This goes in lots of different bikes. By the way, this is motorcycle specific, they say. Not sure why, but they say don't put it in a car. Might have to do with some regulations. I don't know. But most riders are just, fair weather, daytime riders. In that case, this is a really cheap, about 35 bucks a pair. Link is down below, by the way. Upgrade to make your front end look better. It does look a lot better, and I can recommend it because it's got the right shape and size. The cutoff is perfect. It's not gonna blind oncoming drivers. That's my number one pet peeve of these LED upgrades, when they just totally mess with the design and they're throwing light everywhere and directly into drivers' eyes. Nope, not with this guy. You're completely safe there. The only downside is what I just showed you, but that's only if you're riding at night. So, a great vanity upgrade for 35 bucks. You don't have to damage, modify, or compromise any part of the bike. It goes in and out in minutes, just like a regular light bulb. No fuss, no muss. It does save you electricity if you're, for some reason, short on juice coming out of your alternator, down from 55 to 15 watts per bulb. So, that's a good savings. So it is going to be worthwhile for some people. That's all I'll say there. Check it out down below if you are interested. As of the time of this video, there's a coupon you can activate, and it's about 35 bucks a pair, but it's Amazon, so it changes from time to time. So there you go. Hope this helps somebody. Check it out if you are looking for a daytime rider vanity upgrade. Get yourself a nice looking bulb, super easy to install. If you ride at night like me, get yourself a pair of Silver Stars. If you want increased output, a whiter light, they are normal halogen bulbs. They work perfectly with your housing. However, they are very expensive and they don't last very long. You're going to get 1 or 2 years out of them with normal use, but they do work. So there you go. See ya.